the Manufacturing Canada Conference in May of 2014, which is as relevant today as it was then, Robert Hatton, a former chairman of the Canadian Manufacturers and Exporters Board of Directors, suggested to get around the challenges to competing in the U.S. economy, Canadian manufacturers should simply buy an American company. And I quote, "Business as usual is no longer an option, and we have to figure out other ways to continue to participate in the largest economy in the world. Let's buy America. Let's invest in America." Of course, what Mr. Hatton doesn't say is that this would result in a potentially catastrophic loss of well-paying manufacturing jobs in Canada. Minister, to stem further hemorrhaging of contracts and jobs in Canada due to the year-long closure of the Canada-US border, what is the Canadian government doing to ensure that manufacturers can thrive in Canada and jobs in Canada are protected from President Biden's latest tightening of the Buy America provisions?
Well, thank you very much for the question. And of course, you quoted somebody back in 2014 talking about manufacturing and encouraging Canadian companies to buy American companies. That is something to some extent that has happened, as it has the other way as well. We do both as countries invest in each other. But since that time, of course, we renegotiated very successfully the NAFTA 2 agreement, the CUSMA agreement, and I believe that Canada came out of that with a very good free trade agreement with the United States. It was modernized and that defended all of the important priorities that we had as a country. So I think the situation is such that trade between our two countries, and I did point out that goods and services, we're now talking about over $2 billion a day, is flowing between the two countries, obviously slowed down somewhat by COVID-19, but that because we took a Team Canada approach in making sure that our neighbors to the south were aware of the strongly integrated supply chains that exist between our two countries. As a result of that approach, I think we were able to come out with a very good deal for Canada and for Canadian manufacturers, and we will be cognizant of that as we go forward.
Thank you, Minister. I certainly appreciate that. I was very happy that you spoke about the integrated approach. So, Minister, another concern I have about the Buy America or Buy American provisions is its impact on the Canada-US supply chains that are highly integrated, as you just suggested, sir. Right here in my backyard in Essex is the Windsor assembly plant, the Chrysler assembly plant. We cannot get chips for our vehicles. Therefore, the plant is shut down for 1 month. So I really suggest that integration is not happening at the greatest level it perhaps could. And Minister, parts for a vehicle go back and forth across the busiest international border 7 times, up to 7 times before a car is manufactured. And then that same vehicle or truck vehicle is sent back to the States and or Mexico in some cases. Minister, is Canada negotiating with their U.S. counterparts to ensure that the integrated supply chain with respect to manufacturing in Canada, and particularly the automotive sector, is protected?
Yes, and I'm glad that you brought up the example of the automotive sector, because it's probably the most important illustration of how tightly integrated our supply chains are. As you point out, products go back and forth across the border before they end up in a finished car. And the automobile sector has been very well protected in the renegotiated Canada-US-Mexico trade agreement, and will continue to be protected as we go forward. And the United States recognizes very clearly that that is a strong example of where there can be unintended consequences with protectionist policies. And we're going to make sure that the United States continues to understand that. And we're confident that they will as we go forward, and particularly as we transition from internal combustion engine cars to electric cars. So we're confident that that message will continue to be carried to our neighbors to the south.
Thank you, Minister. Mr. Chair, how much time left, sir?
1 minute.
Thank you so much. So, interestingly enough, Minister, I am the chair of the Conservative Auto Caucus, and yesterday I had 8 or 9 stakeholders on there from all aspects of auto. And yes, there's a lot of talk of electric, and I think that's fantastic. But sales across Canada are down 20%, 20%, and that's due because we cannot get commerce back and forth across the border. We can't get people back and forth across the border. What specifically, Minister, and or have you had any conversations with your counterparts in the United States to ensure that manufacturers, advanced manufacturers in the auto sector, can get people across the border to do their jobs?
I'm very glad you brought that up. And yes, we are specifically talking about different groups that would be potentially considered to be essential workers that have the need to cross the border for specific reasons. They could be technicians in the automobile industry. And we are currently looking at that to see if we can refine our essential workers list as we move forward.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Chair.